The NCAA's name, image, and likeness, or NIL policy, is going into its 4th year in effect, meaning NIL is entering its senior year. Probably one of at least 3 senior years. Shit, throwing a red shirt, COVID eligibility, grad school. Baby, this party never ends.
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving! The show goes on!
For the uninitiated, NIL is a revolutionary policy that allows college athletes to get paid for their personal brand, whether through endorsement deals, autograph signings, social media posts, or if they're really lucky, being the face of some incredible advertisement deals that really let them show the world their entire package. So, as thousands of athletes put pen to paper, committing to continue their academic and athletic careers at universities across the country, let's take a look at how NIL is doing going into year 4. Because as of 2025, the discourse surrounding name, image, and likeness policies in collegiate athletics has evolved significantly, presenting a complex landscape of benefits, challenges, and ongoing debates. Let's begin by rewinding to the days before NIL. Back then, the NCAA ensured that collegiate athletes were strictly prohibited from receiving any form of compensation beyond scholarships bestowed by the university. And that doesn't mean cash wasn't moving hands under the table. Just like smoking on planes, stranger danger, and acknowledging concussions exist, people only started caring in the 60s.
Concussions are the #1 problem in football today. Recent brain scan studies have shown that brain injuries are directly linked to dementia and suicides in former players. Yet the league, you can play the music louder, but you can't silence the truth.
That same decade and pushing into the 1970s, Sam Gilbert, a booster with deep ties to UCLA's basketball dynasty under John Wooden, allegedly funneled money, cars, and other benefits to players. And while the NCAA never officially sanctioned UCLA for this, later investigations revealed that Gilbert had created a system where top recruits were essentially paid to play for the Bruins. Then, there was the SMU death penalty in 1987. Southern Methodist University's football program was found to have systemically provided players with cash payments and other incentives, clearly violating the NCAA's rules. So the NCAA imposed the death penalty, canceling SMU's entire 1987 season and severely restricting the program in subsequent years. And I know, death penalty? This is football, isn't that a bit dramatic? But this isn't rationality. This is Texas, where child services are called on any parent whose baby hasn't had their first concussion by kindergarten. And for those who may not understand that visual, there used to be a reality TV show documenting the intensity and brutality of Texas football teams. The catch? The players were around 8 years old. Again, I said used to be a show. Friday Night Tykes was an absurd, borderline inhumane concept, but the show was so popular it aired for 4 seasons and inspired a spin-off series. That's better than massively popular and critically acclaimed hits like Atlanta, Succession, Eastbound and Down, The Good Place, Battlestar Galactica, Mindhunter, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Rectify, Dairy Girls, Bored to Death, Mr. Robot, Deadwood, Hannibal, The Leftovers, Sherlock, and The Office. UK. Yeah, you don't fuck with Texas football. Embodying the competitive spirit, programs began to outdo each other, looking for sneaky loopholes to funnel money to athletes in exchange for donning the school's colors. And some were pretty clever. For instance, some college football coaches have had financial interest in automobile dealerships, which raised concerns about potential improper benefits to prospective players or their families. And now that the scary man is gone, let's quickly touch on Alabama Jones, former University of Alabama football head coach Nick Saban. Currently, and during his time as a coach, Saban co-owns multiple Mercedes-Benz dealerships through the Dream Motor Group with locations in Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida. And we'll let you connect the dots as to how Coach Saban's dealerships may have aided him in recruiting top 10 draft classes annually for 2 decades. But in case you're wondering if he actually could have gotten away with it, get a load of this. In 2022, before Saban retired, one of Alabama's rivals, Ole Miss, had a running back, Quinshon Judkins, just drafted to the Cleveland Browns. He led the SEC conference in rushing yards as a freshman. And before that season even ended, Judkins had a new whip, a Mercedes-Benz purchase from Saban's Birmingham dealership. However, nobody knew a thing about it until Judkins casually let it slip during an interview with ESPN over a year later. That's like O.J. Simpson writing a book called If I Did It. Oh. Right, yeah, never mind, that actually happened. So yeah, some coaches and programs played it like Ocean's 11. Slick, calculated, and practically impossible to trace. Others, more like the Home Alone burglars. Straight buffoonery.
Dead kid.
In 2021, reports surfaced alleging that the University of Tennessee provided cash to recruits' families concealed within fast food bags, specifically Happy Meals. And I'm not sure what would have been more suspicious. A group of beefy 200-pound football players ordering a child's meal consisting of just 4 chicken nuggets, or any bag coming from a McDonald's kitchen without oil visibly bleeding through the paper. And while these claims captured public attention and fueled widespread speculation, subsequent investigations revealed that all the McDonald's claims were fabricated. It was Chick-fil-A. Or, take FSU, Florida State University. During the 1980s, Florida State players were found to have received free shoes and clothing from sports stores. And things got so out of hand, everyone in the country took notice of their Narcos meets Plato's Closet secret operation. This famously led to the FSU's backronym. Well, they certainly did in this case, but that's not the one I'm talking about. Kinda accurate, second's a bit generous, but not what I'm looking for anyway. Okay, absolutely not. That one's the furthest from reality. That's better. While some of these money funneling schemes are admittedly hilarious, because let's be honest, stuffing cash into a McDonald's bag like it's a Happy Meal for corruption is objectively funny. The consequences can be devastating, because while giant universities have resources to bounce back from financial or reputational hits, they can be life-altering for athletes. Reggie Bush, the former USC running back, is one of the most electric and influential college football players of all time. He was dominant, losing only one game between 2003 and 2005, winning 2 national championships and the 2005 Heisman Trophy. However, years after Bush left LA for the NFL, investigations revealed that he had received improper benefits from agents. Specifically, the NCAA was upset that Bush's parents had been living rent-free in a San Diego home valued at $757,000. The NCAA would officially take action against Bush and USC in 2010. And sure, USC was hit with a 2-year postseason ban and the loss of 30 scholarships, but that's nothing a storied program can't overcome. USC hasn't, but that's a Trojan thing. But Reggie? The NCAA made sure to make an example out of him. They stripped Reggie of all his accomplishments and dignity, wins officially erased from the record book, including USC's 2005 season and BCS national championship, and the return of his personal award to the Heisman Trust. True story. USC has produced 8 Heisman winners, the most of any school. Yet in the school's Hall of Victory, only 7 trophies have been on display for the past 2 decades. And that's a good lesson for the kids watching at home. Buy your mom a house, goodbye legacy. Kill your wife and her friend, and you'll be immortalized by your alma mater forever. And look, I'm not even trying to make O.J. Simpson jokes, but it's kind of his fault he keeps being the perfect example for stuff like this. We're done now, I promise. But this was the reality of college athletics before NIL. We were basically talking about a billion-dollar industry built on the labor of incredibly hardworking unpaid athletes, where even the smallest infraction could get a player exiled like they just betrayed the family business. And if college sports were a family business, the NCAA was the mafia, a cartel that controlled every aspect of the operation while pretending it was all about integrity. They made billions while the players, the soldiers in this analogy, were expected to work for scraps under the sacred code of amateurism. And if a player stepped out of line, took rent money, accepted a car, or God forbid got a free meal from a booster, the NCAA would come down on them with all the force of Tony Soprano protecting his gabagool.
Gabagool.
Gabagool. Gabagool and shit.
Let's get back to that gabagool.
Gabagool. The gabagool. The gabagool.
Over here.
The NCAA tried erasing Reggie Bush from history for accepting less than what third-string quarterbacks make on NIL deals today. Entire programs were kneecapped for infractions that, in hindsight, were just an early version of what's now legally happening without a second glance on TikTok. And speaking of the mob, there were other instances of players receiving finances, specifically to alter their performance, like the University of Kentucky's point shaving scandal from 1948 to 1951, but that's not what this story is about. And frankly, we don't need to worry about gambling's influence over sport. They're separated, oil and water, church and state, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez. Really? They're getting back to... Can't believe they're giving it... What is this, like the 5th time they're giving it another shot? He's got more shots with her than he has movies as Batman. Wait, but isn't she wrapped up in all the Diddy shit? But then, alas, July 2021, a moment decades in the making. Space Jam 2 starring the King LeBron James released in theaters around the world. Oh, also, the NCAA implemented a policy allowing college athletes to profit from their name, image, and likeness. And this shift aimed to finally address the long-standing criticism of the NCAA's amateurism model, which prohibited athletes from receiving compensation despite the substantial revenue generated by collegiate sports. The policy change was influenced by legal pressures, notably the Supreme Court's decision in NCAA v. Alston, which challenged the restrictions on athlete compensation. And since the inception of NIL policies in July 2021, collegiate athletics have undergone significant transformations. These changes have been driven by legal challenges, policy amendments, and evolving interpretations of athletic compensation. Following the NCAA's interim policy in 2021, various states enacted their own NIL laws, leading to a patchwork of regulations across the country. By January 2024, over 20 states had implemented laws requiring student athletes to disclose their NIL agreements. For instance, Florida, where a man once bought a mask at a gas station and then immediately used it to rob the bank across the street. It required athletes to disclose NIL contracts to schools in advance, because obviously when it comes to financial transparency, Florida leads by example. Alabama passed a restrictive NIL law but repealed it entirely in 2022 to allow schools more flexibility. Both states, home to powerhouse programs like Alabama, Auburn, UF, and Florida State, leaned conservative, shocker, and initially took a more cautious approach that emphasized amateurism. However, as NIL became a central recruiting tool, they reversed course to prevent losing top-tier talent to states with fewer restrictions. With NIL laws varying by states and schools scrambling to adapt, a new challenge emerged. NIL collectives. Booster-funded groups pooling millions to secure top athletes through endorsements. Imagine, billionaires throwing stacks of cash at high schoolers, bidding for the next great quarterback like they're snatching up teenagers for their own personal interest. It almost sounds like, no, what? I was gonna say a life-size version of Hungry Hungry Hippos. Jesus, hey, we're not on the same page right now. Can we get it together? Because, Jesus. By October 2022, the NCAA could feel the tides changing. They were losing their stronghold over collegiate sports. The NCAA had to step in, issuing new guidance aimed at regulating these collectives and ensuring they didn't become outright recruiting tools. The NCAA's early attempt to rein in NIL collectives didn't exactly go as planned. Instead of reducing their influence, these booster-backed war chests only grew, turning college sports into a full-on bidding war. Five-star recruits weren't just choosing schools based on tradition or coaching, they were following the money, sometimes flipping commitments overnight for bigger offers. Schools that played by the old rules found themselves left behind in the dust, while the NCAA watched its guidance be about as effective as the pickup dog poop sign outside my apartment. And to Mrs. McBride in apartment 455 next door, yeah, we all know it's you. You have to stop shitting outside. It's just weird, but if you insist on doing it, at least follow the damn rule. With the collectives really in control, it was clear that the NCAA had lost its grip on amateurism. And what's the old saying? If you can't beat 'em, join 'em. The NCAA couldn't stop the money from flowing through back channels. There was only one way forward: bring the payments above board. By May 2024, a landmark development occurred when the NCAA and its 5 power conferences agreed to allow schools to directly compensate athletes. This decision was part of a $2.8 billion settlement resolving multiple antitrust laws. The settlement permitted schools to share up to $20.5 million annually in revenue with their athletes, marking a significant shift from the traditional amateurism model. Finally, after decades of fighting athlete compensation, the NCAA finally caved in and started paying players directly. Because if there's one thing the NCAA hates more than paying athletes, it's losing lawsuits. It's kinda like the US government's relationship with marijuana. First they said, no, you can't have that, it's the gateway drug. Then they saw the money, and now they're sitting in the smoke circle, singing Kumbaya and passing it to the left, bragging, okay, but for real, we could have been taxing this shit decades ago. Let's do Galaxy Gas next.
Sir, Why can't we be out in the open? Why aren't we in a square right now? Why aren't we talking to people, letting them know Item 9 exists? Get it out. Shout at the rooftops. This is great. This is the bee's knees, Item 9.
Naturally, this sent traditionalists into a full-blown Karen-sized meltdown. The way some of these folks reacted, you would think the NCAA had just legalized murder. No, don't do it. Don't do it. You're on seriously thin ice right now, you know that? The idea of college athletes, who again generate billions in revenue annually, getting a paycheck was apparently the line in the sand for the NCAA. Not the TV deals, not the coaches' multi-million-dollar salaries, not the luxurious facilities with personal float tanks. Nope, it was the players finally making money that signaled Ku Klan, the feathered serpent god who was said to emerge and lay waste to kingdoms, devour the sun, and drown the earth in storms when the balance of power is disrupted. Or, you know, when a 5-star recruit receives a direct deposit. You had analysts saying this was the death of pure college athletics, as if boosters haven't been slipping cash under the table since the Eisenhower administration. One former coach even compared NIL to free agency ruining the NFL. Right. Because we all know how horribly that turned out for football. So now, after years of fighting it, the NCAA and its power conference minions finally admitted what everyone else already knew. College athletes were getting paid whether they liked it or not. But just as soon as the NCAA seemingly figured out how to pay athletes, the next question became, who gets paid and how much? Enter Title IX, the decades-old federal law designed to ensure gender equity in college sports. You see, when schools started prepping for revenue sharing, they suddenly realized that they couldn't funnel all the money to the football and basketball teams, even though they bring in the most revenue. That's because Title IX requires equal treatment for male and female athletes. And naturally, rather than finding the solution, the government just threw its hands up and walked away. By February 2025, the U.S. Department of Education officially rescinded Biden-era guidance that would have required revenue-sharing payments to comply with Title IX, leaving schools to figure out for themselves whether paying a backup quarterback to take 2 snaps and party all season, the same as a championship-winning gymnast with Olympic aspirations, was fair or financial suicide.
All you care about is money. This town deserves a better class of criminal.
So where does that leave us? The NCAA gave up pretending to regulate NIL, states made and unmade their own rules, and boosters are running what can only be described as legalized bag drop operations. College sports is either the most chaotic it's ever been or the most honest it's ever been. Possibly both. But here's the real question. Is NIL actually working, or is the transfer portal basically LinkedIn for quarterbacks? Is this the golden age of athlete empowerment, or just a lawless mess where the biggest schools feast and everyone else fights for scraps? Let's start with the pros of NIL. The first and most obvious benefit to NIL's existence. EA Sports College Football 25. The beloved college football video game franchise was shelved back in 2013, when the issue of using players' likeness became too hot to ignore. But thanks to NIL, EA Sports cut deals with over 10,000 athletes, offering $600 payments and a copy of the game in exchange for the use of their likeness. And while it's kinda funny that this billion-dollar company basically paid players in store credit, the real win was that the game finally was back. And not only did NCAA 25 come back to become the highest grossing sports game in US history, but it instantly put Madden to shame. For those unfamiliar, Madden is the NFL's gaming franchise, whose fans have been complaining for years it's just an annual $70 roster update. So now, with competition back in the mix, NCAA 25 is finally forcing Madden to step up its game. Thank you, Electronic Arts, for publicly embarrassing Electronic Arts. But outside of finally being able to run up the score with your alma mater, NIL is actually changing real lives, and in ways that matter a little more than your road to glory stats. NIL has finally given athletes a chance to cash in on their own success, and we're not just talking about the superstars. Even backup long snappers are making money posting sponsored TikToks about treating their foot fungus. Take Caitlin Clark as an example. By the time she left Iowa, she had NIL deals worth millions. Not to mention, she became Taylor Swift's best friend. But even one of those partnerships is worth more than her entire first-year salary in the WNBA. In other words, she took a pay cut to go pro.
Game? Oh, man.
There's also the matter of community engagement. Athletes have utilized NIL earnings to give back to their communities. Draylon Miller, a University of Colorado receiver, has reinvested his NIL income into local initiatives, fostering positive community relations. NIL earnings have also alleviated the financial strains faced by student athletes, enabling them to support themselves and their families without compromising their academic and athletic commitments. But in a real sense, NIL isn't just about money. It's also supposed to force athletes into becoming brand managers, tax planners, and contract negotiators overnight. Which, to be fair, is a pretty big jump from "don't you dare accept that free Gatorade" to "here's your 1099 form." NIL opportunities encourage athletes to develop their personal brands, enhancing their marketability and career prospects both within and beyond sports. It's all about helping athletes capitalize off of their identities. And nobody understood that better than Nebraska's DeColdis Crawford, who secured an air conditioning NIL deal so perfect that I refuse to believe it wasn't the exact reason his parents named him that. Like, was Lawrence Crawford ever an option? No shot. It was DeColdis or bust. Some athletes have leveraged NIL policies to launch businesses, fostering entrepreneurial skills and creating additional revenue streams, thereby promoting financial literacy and business acumen. Back in the day, jocks were playing hooky. Now, they're the ones on campus discussing capital gains taxes before practice.
My favorite subject? English, because I love words. I love hearing them, I love saying them. Right there was a perfect example of a sentence.
NIL isn't just about current athletes either. It's bringing back former stars to help guide the next generation. Some, like Andrew Luck, have stepped in to educate athletes on long-term planning, while others are taking a direct leadership role. Most notably, Stephen Curry, the Golden State Warriors point guard and future NBA Hall of Famer, became the first active athlete to take a front office job at his alma mater, becoming the assistant GM of Davidson basketball. I mean, imagine if Beyonce was on the Cowboy Carter tour and also moonlighting as the principal at Blue Ivy's high school. But also this makes total sense, because Davidson basketball's entire brand is already just Stephen Curry slept here from 2006 to 2009. Another pro of NIL has been extended collegiate participation. The financial incentives provided by NIL deals can encourage athletes to remain in college longer. They feel less pressure to turn professional prematurely, allowing them to prioritize academic achievements alongside their athletic pursuits. Turns out, when you actually pay athletes for what they do, they don't mind sticking around for a bit. Who knew? Before NIL, college athletes rushed to go pro for that big paycheck. Now, some of them are thriving on campus, getting paid, taking one class a semester, and stretching their eligibility like they're trying to be the Van Wilder of sports. And while all of these benefits may sound like NIL finally solved college sports, don't worry. This is the NCAA we're talking about. They're still going to find ways to screw it up. For instance, there has been a non-ending stream of regulatory and compliance issues. The absence of uniform federal regulations has led to a patchwork of state laws, creating disparities and confusion in NIL governance and further complicating the regulatory environment. Even once regulation was established, ensuring compliance with NIL policies became a whole different challenge, as evidenced by disputes like that of UNLV quarterback Matthew Sluka, who sat out an entire season due to an unfulfilled $100,000 NIL promise by UNLV. This is an actual Division I school, in Las Vegas of all places, stiffing a kid on a six-figure deal. And I have to ask, when the moral standards you fail to meet are literally set by Las Vegas casinos, maybe it's time to rethink your business model. Plus, variations in institutional resources can affect the ability to monitor and support NIL activities effectively, potentially leading to unequal opportunities and oversight. Right now, NIL regulation is basically the Wild Wild West. No, not that one. You're on one today. Except instead of cowboys and sheriffs, it's boosters and compliance officers nervously flipping through legal documents, hoping nobody sues them. And much like the actual Wild Wild West, and the Will Smith movie for that matter, the richest guys still end up running the whole thing. Then there's the critique that NIL has ruined the competitive balance of collegiate athletics. Some of its critics argue that substantial NIL earnings blur the line between amateurism and professional sports, potentially undermining the traditional collegiate athletic model. As if that weren't the whole point. However, there may be something to that complaint that wealthier programs leverage NIL opportunities to attract top talent, exacerbating disparities between larger and smaller institutions. The emergence of NIL collectives, where donors pool resources to fund these deals, has intensified this concern. If college sports were a monopoly, rich schools aren't just passing go and collecting $200. They own Boardwalk, Park Place, and your starting quarterback's soul. Small schools? They're over here begging for a community chest card. I mean, do you really envision 6-time Super Bowl champion and 72-year-old Bill Belichick schmoozing up to some college kid? College football players? With emotional pitches and promises of greatness? Fuck no. He's just going to go out there and shoot a Venmo. And the NCAA has made it easier to do just that. Just recently, on March 17th, 2025, the NCAA decided to allow athletes to negotiate NIL deals before enrollment. They no longer have to wait until they're officially part of a college program to discuss the NIL opportunities. This terrifies those who already believe that schools focus on high-revenue sports for NIL deals will divert resources and attention from non-revenue sports, potentially impacting their development and the university's sustainability. And while NIL has kept student athletes in college for longer, it's not often the same school. Retaining talent has become increasingly challenging as lucrative NIL deals lure standout players from smaller programs after they've showcased their skills. This trend leads to less experienced and cohesive teams, undermining the overall competitive of collegiate sports. Take legendary Miami basketball coach Jim Larranaga, who abruptly and kind of surprisingly resigned in December 2024, citing frustrations with the evolving NIL landscape. After leading the Hurricanes to the Final Four in 2023, Larranaga faced the unexpected departure of 8 players entering the transfer portal, despite their expressed admiration and satisfaction with Miami's program. Jim Larranaga had 8 players say, "Coach, hey man, we love you," and then immediately transfer. That's like proposing to your girlfriend. She says yes, and then before you even get up off your knee, she's in an Uber to go live with a billionaire in Beverly Hills.
What the hell? How did you two even wind up together?
Well, last night, after my shift, I found him changing his diaper behind his Rolls Royce in the parking lot.
Those teriyaki wings shot through me like a bullet.
And we just really hit it off.
We've been together ever since.
Exclamation point!
Look at that, we're already finishing each other's sentences.
Well, providing punctuation, but that's...
A start!
Hey!
In this new age of NIL, universities have also voiced concerns over gender equity. High-revenue sports like football and men's basketball often attract more lucrative NIL deals, potentially sidelining those in less publicized sports. These recent policy changes rescinding guidance on proportional NIL compensation have sparked debates about the potential regression of equity in collegiate sports. If you're a football or men's basketball player, NIL is the golden age of opportunity. If you're on the fencing team, it's more like the Great Depression. Your best hope is for some mysterious millionaire to take pity on you, casually tossing you a few NIL dollars between champagne toasts. At least until you're 25. Now, the US Department of Education, or what's left of it after being RKO'd through a folding table by Secretary Linda the Suplex Subsidizer McMahon, has clarified that revenue-sharing payments must comply with Title IX, mandating equal treatment and benefits for male and female athletes at federally funded schools. And, oh please, before we go crying about women's sports, we all know that if they just worked a little harder, they too could land a multi-million-dollar NIL deal selling Monster Mango Madness, Fortnite skins, and crypto. But no, they insist on wanting fairness. How adorable. The harsh truth right now is that female athletes and those in less publicized sports may face challenges in attracting NIL opportunities due to lower media exposure, potentially perpetuating existing inequalities. So sure, women's sports can totally land NIL deals. All they have to do is be just as famous as men's teams, despite getting 1/10 of the coverage and 100th of the funding and a TV contract that actively states, sure, we'll air your championship game Tuesday night at 3 a.m. on the Weather Channel. So just to recap, we started with college athletes getting secretly paid in Happy Meal bags, and then the NCAA and Mayor McCheese said absolutely not. Then they said, all right, fine, whatever. Then Congress got involved and immediately made it all worse. And now we've got 17-year-olds signing million-dollar deals while schools are still figuring out how to print their contracts. NIL was supposed to fix college sports. Instead, it's just made the chaos legal. So where does that leave us? Is this the golden age of athlete empowerment, or just the same game with a new set of rules? To help us make sense of it all, we figured, why not talk to someone who's actually living it? Joining us to discuss her experience with the NCAA and the current state of NIL, Please welcome international track star and current Georgetown University student athlete, Almi Narukar. Almi, before coming to Georgetown, you competed in Europe, where, college sports are about playing college sports. And then you get here and there's marching bands, multi-million-dollar deals, and 19-year-olds signing sneaker contracts. At what point did you go, wait, this is school? Like, what's the big difference here in America that you've noticed?
I would say the main differences between UK and US sport, collegiate sport, are related to money. In the US, sport pays for tuition, but it also provides social status as an athlete. Parents are also a lot more intense. Like, they see their main mission as creating child stars rather than taking their kids to sports clubs for enjoyment and for well-being.
Since NIL is supposed to help athletes become entrepreneurs, do you see more athletes thinking about business beyond sports?
Not only get academic advice, but they get some financial advice on how to promote themselves, how to build a brand as an athlete. But here at Georgetown, we learn different lessons. We learn that when you go to hotels, when you're competing on the circuit, you can make some money off the shampoo, the robes, the slippers. If you've got extra space, you could put in a pillow, some towels.
Almi, don't give away all the trade secrets on air. But all right, if you had to explain American college sports to someone back home in England, how would you describe it?
Well, in England, you're doing it for the love of the sport. Wait, 1 minute.
Okay. I guess she's just taking a call. This is not professional. I'm gonna put this one on you in the end.
Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, what was I saying?
Wait, Almi, did you just transfer?
My heart has always been in Wisconsin. Badgers for life.
What? No, I swear you were just wearing a Georgetown shirt like 10 seconds ago.
So the thing about NIL...
Oh, Jesus Christ. I've lost control. Okay, Almi, just focus. Just answer this question and I'll let you go. What do you think of NIL?
Oh, no, it's perfect. I don't know why anyone ever complained about it.
Almi Narukar, everyone. Thanks for watching that episode on the state of NIL 4 years in. If you want to see more, check us out on YouTube at Uncoachable Show, Instagram at Uncoachable Show, and on TikTok at Uncoachable. We've already got other videos up on Luka Doncic and the Mavs trade, and the rise and fall of Hooters. If you want to see more of Almi Narukar, check her YouTube channel out and follow her along as she chases her professional athletic dreams at Almi Narukar.